Welcome to the special edition of Spotlight. Today we focus on the Institute of Grace and the work that the IOG is doing in not only rehabilitating people from communities where economic decline has happened over decades and the past few years, but also helping rehabilitate people and integrating them back into society and looking at people becoming economically active in their societies. And joining me now from the IOG is Pastor Curt van Heerden, who's the founder and visionary of the IOG, and also Pastor Antonello Sibinda, the CFO of IOG. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this special moment and occasion to talk about the IOG.
Thank you so much for having us here, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, so nobody knows much about the IOG, but you know, we've engaged and interacted, and you know, from what we've seen, you know, it's an organization that is working at rehabilitating people and making them economically active, which speaks to the business community watching this interview right now. But maybe give us the granular version of what is the IOG, and as a faith-based organization, how do you look at what it is you're doing and the importance of it?
So Gary, Institution of Grace, known as Institution of Grace, known as IOG, was really founded by myself to do more than just clean the addict, but to heal the person. Many times when individuals who struggle with drug addiction go into rehabilitation centers, they seek recovery from their addiction, but not healing as a person. And when we founded Institution of Grace, that was my desire, to ensure that we focus on healing the person more than just helping them find rehabilitation from drug addiction. So at the core of what we do is really to ensure that we unearth the leader beneath the addict.
Now, obviously, you started working in communities where this was sorely needed, and you found some incredible case studies. Tell us maybe briefly about that before we chat to Pastor Antonello, who himself is rehabilitated.
Yes, definitely. Growing up in a community where I would constantly witness people getting shot, stabbed, and beaten, these were common occurrences to me. And I remember that one day vividly when I saw someone being shot right in front of me. On that same day, I saw someone get stabbed. And right there I saw how innocent little children had to witness these events happening. And in that moment I decided that I have to do something about this. And those events were drug related. It was there where the idea of starting a drug and rehabilitation center was born. To understand that within every addict is a broken child. And if we don't seek to heal the broken child within the addict, we will always judge the symptoms they display as adults.
We have been running on Business Day TV, Pastor Antonello, we've been running a promotion or a promo, you know, for talking to the business community about doing more. And one of them features you, in which, as a former addict yourself, you lost your family, you know, and the road to rehabilitation and where you are now has been a very specific one. Perhaps share with us, you know, the sort of world you were in and how you see that world now.
Sure. Gary, for me personally, coming through the process of growing up in a community in the Eldorado Park, you know, the choices I made was in relation to the surroundings that I was in. You know, growing up, seeing some of my family members matriculate but not have employment, made it very difficult for me to see myself progress further than, you know, matriculating. And when I eventually experimented with drugs, was very early in primary school, and it escalated from there. So when I got married in 2009, I was already deep into my addiction, and my wife said yes to someone who she did not even know, because he didn't know himself. And for 17 years of my life, I've been through various rehabs. I've been through various drugs, and next year will be 8 years recovered. And you know, the journey was not easy. And I feel when someone understands the person, you know, more than just diagnosing my problem, and I feel like the person, when my person when my person felt valued, I think that's when the change happened for me, because Institution of Grace was my 4th rehab. So when I got to that point in my life where I felt my person is valued, is where I find myself today, showing that there is hope for individuals who come through a life of addiction.
Now we saw that story that you're back with your family and there's a positive light again, all because the person was rehabilitated and not just the addiction cured. So, Pastor Curt, it's not just about addiction, but there's many reasons why addiction happens. One of your other case studies is also about a young woman who suffered the most severe forms of abuse, and yet today she's part of the IOG and the Institution of Grace and the programs to bring in people. So tell us about what it is that the IOG is dealing with in terms of rehabilitation, the different aspects of what people are dealing with in the societies where you find them.
That's a great question, Gary. We have something that we call regression process. So before we take you through a process of growing forward, we first have to take you through a process where you grow backwards. Because we first have to identify, why did you start using in the first place? Because in the absence of knowing why, we'll take a blanket approach. And once we know why, we take an individualistic approach. Because every addict has a different reason for why they use. Some use because dad was never at home. Some use because all they saw was dad beating mom. Some use because they grew up without both dad and mom. Or some use just because peer pressure in the community. And once you have that regression process, you connect with the child within the addict. And once you connect with the child within the addict, you allow them to understand, wow, this is not what I experienced when I grew up. So when addicts find recovery, they actually have to find healing for their inner child to sustain the recovery they have found. And that is why we have different programs that we implement. There is not a blanket approach. It's finding out through the regression process, what is your reason? And when we find out what is your reason, we tailor-make a program specifically for you.
What kind of support are you getting, not only from the communities, but maybe perhaps from families, the kind of people that approach you? We see a lot of it is basically underpinned by a faith-based organization approach, but it must be hectic work to be doing this on a daily basis, day in and day out. How is the community reacting and rallying around this kind of process?
It's a difficult question to answer because it's two ways. One, this scourge and evil of addiction is happening in the community, around every corner, on every corner. And the good that we're trying to do within the community is often not accepted as well as we thought it would. Because many people don't mind it happening as long as it doesn't happen close to them. So what we're experiencing at the moment is, because of the growth that's happening in our organization, we're experiencing the stigma attached to addiction. So we have homes in the communities. So as our homes are growing, the neighbors are starting to think, wow, I can't raise my child in this environment. So what do? Do your child see an addict on the street, or does your child see an addict recovering close to them? So you have this paradox playing in our communities. Families don't want to see the addicts on the street, neither do they want to see them recover close to them. So that's the challenge that we are currently experiencing, and that makes it difficult for communities to buy into what we do because our current facilities is right close to where they find themselves.
We'll talk a little bit more about how business could be doing more and could be reacting and contributing perhaps differently or in other ways. But Pastor Nello, an example like yourself coming out of the program, a lot of people like you, former addicts coming into the program, what is it that you tell them? What is it the road that they walk with you? How is it that one best, helps to integrate a person back into society after the addiction is dealt with, the issues are dealt with? So you've walked that road personally. Tell us a little bit about the circle of people that maybe at some point you yourself would have been part of.
Yeah, Gary, I think what tends to happen is when someone comes through the program, the first group of people that they are reintegrated to is to their family. So the importance of the family understanding the individual's change that has happened is very crucial for the recovery of that person. because what the family has seen prior to the person booking into the program is not who the person is when they come out of the program. So to build that bridge between who the person was and who the person is a crucial step within the recovery of any person. Because what we tend to find is when someone books into a program, the family doesn't heal from places and situations that the individual has healed from. And when they meet one another and that issues are not resolved, there's a clash. And what we tend to see is the families start to remind the individual of who they were, and that is the form and the cause of many relapses within the recovery process of an individual. So the journey that we take the family through and the individual is crucial, because as much as the individual needs healing, so does the family. And we teach the family on how to respond and receive a recovering addict, because a recovering addict is not your average child, is no longer your child. He has issues, she has issues. The approach needs to be a very, very thought out approach in terms of ensuring that, listen, we want to get this family to the next level. So reintegration is a very, very crucial step within any recovery program. Helping the person behind the four walls is one step, but the reintegration process of having this person gradually back into the community is one of the steps that we take very, very serious within the recovery process of every individual.
I can imagine the reintegration also has a lot to do with trust.
Yes.
Sure.
On both sides, you know, for
Sure.
like somebody being rehabilitated and going into a program. We watch movies and we see people who spent 30 years in jail come out and has to go and work in a supermarket. So there's a trust issue. So I'm sure the same sort of trust issues and questions are when rehabilitation has happened. And so tell us about the willingness and openness of society to help you resolve the problem once you've really done the hard yards.
So society at large still lives in the consequences of what the addict's addiction created. And what we've seen over the years is the importance of ensuring that the recovering addict is reintegrated back to himself, to his family, and also into the community and society at large. Because many times, even though the recovering addict is reintegrated back to his family, it's the rejection from the community that can also cause a relapse. So communities are also impacted by the past lifestyle of the addict. That is why they are often not receptive to the idea that he can stay sober for longer than what he projects he is. So many communities are living in the constant fear, wondering, when will my house be broken into again? When will my car be broken into again? So the consequences of addiction often lives on longer, long after addiction has been found.
Let's finally quickly, we have time for one more question. Let's finally talk about how the business community can help. Obviously, we believe it's in the interest, and as Arena Holdings, we've embraced this project to say that there is a real need for the business community to support the right kind of programs that helps economic integration, because there's social part, but then there's also the economic integration. A person can only feel really that they have a purpose if they have a job, if they're contributing to their own environment. So what is it that you feel that the business community can do better to try and support places like the IOG as far as rehabilitation and economic integration is concerned?
One of the things that I would say how business communities can help is coming and partnering with institutions such as Institution of Grace. In which way? In ensuring that they help us in the partnership, in ensuring that the past of the addict ends when the addiction ends. But more than ending their past, ensuring that their future begins there. But what future? And in the partnership, ensuring that as an organization, we can do job placements. We can say, now that you've completed your recovery program, we are in partnership with X amount of business individuals and companies where we can do job placement. As you've said, Gary, economic freedom is not a privilege, it's a right. And how do we, together with the business community, empower individuals who has a drug addiction background to find more than just recovery, but to find economic freedom?
We're going to have to leave it there, but powerful words, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here on BDTV. Pastor Curt van Heerden, the founder and visionary behind Institution of Grace, and Pastor Antonello Sibinda, the CFO. Thank you very much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you.
That's where we leave it now. Stay tuned for more programming right here on Business Day TV.